Hello everybody. So this video is entitled Merry Deflationary Christmas. Merry Christmas to all, but especially a Merry Deflationary Christmas because there is this general idea out there. People complain. And of course, we think everybody complains about prices because if you see a video that says, oh, prices are cheaper this year, you're never going to click. You're never going to click on the link. If it bleeds, it leads. People like to complain. Complaining is something that helps, attract attention. Complaining leads to attention. But when I look at the facts, I tell to myself, I find much of the tech that we have these days to be very deflationary, and that's why on this video I'm showing this Christmas tree. It's a techie Christmas tree because tech actually leads to a deflationary world, and this deflationary world is a major problem for fiat. It's a major problem for money printing. It's a major problem for a growth system which is based on people ever spending more, when in fact, when I look at what people actually do, people spend less than before on a lot of the expensive things out there. So this year I'm in the USA for Christmas, and feel free to chime in on your own observations. These are my observations about everyday economics. So, anyways, I go to a friend's house. They have an expensive house, and oftentimes in the US, if you go to a more expensive home, you'll have a lot of appliances are for show. But even if you go to a regular home, your range is going to be at least $1,000, right? Your fridge is going to be $1,500. So that also applies to the regular home with a cooking range. So anyways, a lot of these homes in the US, they have ranges of this kind, right? So this is what the range looks like. That's a French one right there. There's an Italian equivalent. There's an American equivalent. I think it's called Wolf or whatever. They cost between $15,000 and $20,000 for a range. And then, of course, you have the fridge. So some Americans, they love to have these dual door fridges that cost probably $10,000, something like that. And everything's expensive and it's beautiful and it's nice and it's a show kitchen. But when you look at the head of household, what do they use to cook? What do they actually cook in? Well, oftentimes you'll find them cook the food in this, right? And this one, I got an expensive one here. It's a brand. The branded one is $79. If you don't buy the branded one, you can get it for $30, $45, right? This is an air fryer. I'm sure most people have air fryers these days. These, of course, do so much more than $1,000 piece of appliance. They cook healthier. And this is an expensive one. This is a Ninja. This is $89. And so I ask myself, why do we keep building kitchens the way we do when in actuality, what people use, they use technology, tech-enabled appliances that actually could save you a lot of money. And this is something that I see all over the place. People opting out for an actual tech that saves you a bunch of money as opposed to an appliance which doesn't save you money. This is an appliance. This is the old world. This doesn't save you money. This is tech. This is the new world. This is the world we live in. This saves you 2 to 3 orders of magnitude. And people tweet about it. People share it on Instagram. People love it. There's entire cookbooks. It's the new generation products. The new generation products is 100 times cheaper than the old generation. It makes more than the old generation type of product. And so I ask myself, why do we keep using the old products? Well, we keep using the old products because the way the system is built is you buy a house, it already comes with all of that expensive stuff, all of those expensive appliances. It already comes with all of the expensive plumbing and fixtures. It already comes pre-built with the codes and systems of Keynesian economics. And these codes and systems dictate that the costs have to be higher no matter what, because we have a pile of debt that needs to ever grow, and money is debt. But that's not the natural state. The natural state of the world is a system that is fueled by technology and that creates deflation. Innovation creates deflation. That's Austrian economics. That's the economics underlying Bitcoin. That's the economics underlying so many of the stocks that I follow on this channel. And when you look at people and what actually people prefer, again, going back to my example of the air fryer versus the expensive appliance range, which one generates much more buzz everywhere around the world? It's obviously this. I bet maybe some of my European counterparts are surprised to see that people spend this kind of money here for this type of product. No, it's obviously this. This is 100 times more popular. This is 100 times cheaper. This is better in every single way. And again, you don't have to agree, but one is a status symbol and one is not. This is the Rolls-Royce, this is the Tesla. And you see this pattern all over the place, that people prefer the Tesla to the Rolls-Royce. Billionaires drive Model Ys. They don't drive Rolls-Royces, right? And so this is the same. Billionaires use Gmail. They use Gmail. There's no such thing as a fancy email client they use. No, they use Gmail because technology just creates the best product no matter what. Anyways, let me move on. So of course, there's a general lack of hype in old tech, and new tech takes over. And a stock that I wish was cheaper, that I think is very interesting in this space, is Shark Ninja. Now, I find this stock a little expensive. I wish it was cheaper. Please, is there a short seller out there who can do a short report on this stock and it drops 50% or something? Then I'd be interested, right? That's Shark Ninja. So let me show you some examples of Shark Ninja. So for example, I love sparkling water very much. This is one item that I've owned for years, and you can get these recharged for very, very cheap at any beer store. If you go to a beer store, they can recharge it for you. You can get these CO2 cans recharged for cheap. It's not that expensive, and this allows you click a button and you can have sparkling water. Sparkling water costs quite a bit of money if you go to the store. If you just do it at home, it's 90% cheaper, roughly. And I've had this appliance for years now, and I use it every single day. In fact, I'm using it right now. I'm having sparkling water. This saves you, let's call it 90%. This saves you 90% of the money. And of course, you had this Israeli company, SodaStream. It never really worked because you always needed to screw something in, which was really annoying. This is just one button and your sparkling water falls. You click a button, the sparkling water falls. So that's an example, in my view, of a revolution. Remember, back in the day when ice became a thing, people used to go to the ice box or the ice store in their town, and they would bring ice home, and they would put ice into a piece of furniture, and the ice would melt over a 5-day period, and that's how they kept the food cool, right? So this is kind of the same way. People go to buy sparkling water while they can make it at home. This is decentralization. This is using technology to eliminate costs. This is another one that I have, and this one, in my view, is very, very, very impressive. That has to be 20 times cheaper. Did you know you can actually make ice cream at them? That's up to, I would argue it's 20 times cheaper to make it at home. Okay, there's a few steps, but it's a very impressive machine. It makes really good stuff, and you're just making it at home. If you have a swimming pool, you may have seen these all over the place. These used to cost $2,000, and they used to have a cable. And these cables were always getting tangled up. Now, and that's just one of the more expensive ones. Now you can get some of those for $200. So you're looking at, once again, technology using a 10x cheaper, and that's a robot, right? That's a robot, and there's more and more robots coming up. Where this is an old version of a Shark vacuum robot. I think these are something like $200, and for $300 you may make one where you have a trash can embedded with it, and of course that's a lot of disruption right there. You're disrupting your pool guy, you're disrupting your cleaning person, you're disrupting your pool guy, you're disrupting your grocery store, you're disrupting your grocery store. Technology is insane. Technology is going crazy, and so that's why I'm very interested in these companies who make these appliances that look harmless on the surface, but actually could create a lot of disruption. All of these little things create a lot of disruption. Imagine a world, and I don't know, a kitchen in a house, that's probably 20% of the cost of a house, probably something like that. Imagine a world where the kitchen is simply a blank slate. Like you just have a blank cabinet, a blank countertop, and you just buy a bunch of small appliances that you update, every over year you update, because technology moves so fast that, of course, the air fryer that's going to be the next generation air fryer that's released 3 years from now, it will be maybe 10x better than this one. Ninja, for example, released like the crispy version, which is like a transparent, like an even better appliance. So, of course, people get upset at appliances. They don't really update. These you can update and switch up all the time. So imagine a world where a contractor, simply doesn't put anything in the kitchen, just a countertop, and then you just bring little teeny tiny appliances, which once again, objectively make better food. They objectively make better food. Oh, another thing, they use one tenth of the energy. These things use an enormous amount of energy. These are very energy efficient. So all of this stuff, in my view, is an enormous deflationary force. And, I could go on. I have a lot of examples like this of why we live in a world that is deflation. Point number one, if something is expensive, perhaps it is because that something doesn't have enough technology infused into it. Maybe it's not a tech experience enough. For example, you may remember a few days ago, there was this tweet that went viral. Somebody went to have breakfast at some, not even, I don't think it was a 5-star, just like a regular resort somewhere in the Caribbean. They ended up paying $350 without tip for breakfast for 4 people. 4 people for breakfast, $350. Think about that. So think about the restaurant. Is the restaurant a good value these days, right? I don't think the restaurant is a modern day experience anymore. I just don't. With people having a lot of experiences at home, having a lot of tech-enabled experiences. Maybe a tech-enabled restaurant is a modern day experience, but I don't think that's a lot of experience. And think about, the $350 doesn't go a long way if you're paying breakfast for 3 people. 4 people, sorry. $350 goes a very long way if you can replace an entire set of appliances in your house for $350. It goes a very long way. And if you also add like beverage makers and all that sort of stuff, it goes a very, very long way. If you can replace a pool guy, all of a sudden you don't have a $250 a month pool guy because you bought a $400 robot and the pool guy is not needed anymore, right? That goes a very long way. Restaurants, that don't seem a very good deal, especially in some spots in the USA. Really don't seem a very good deal. Maybe your modern day experience is prepping a succulent meal at home, not having to do much because you use a tech-enabled device that perhaps has an AI in it, and the AI just controls everything in the device and makes the food for you. Another example today for Christmas, where I was, we were a few kids. Parents tried to have them watch the Disney parade. Apparently it's a US thing, Disney Christmas parade. Anyways, let me tell you one thing. Children are much more interested by taking mom or dad's phone and playing a free game. They much prefer to play a free game than to look at the analog Disney Magical Parade, which parents are really interested in, but I'm not so sure children are. If I look at the behavior of children, it's all about the parent's phone. It's all about the screen. If there is a screen, the cost of entertainment is going to be near zero whenever there is a screen. The screen just dematerializes everything, and it makes it so dirt cheap. It collapses down the cost of entertainment to the cost of energy. We live in a deflationary world. I have a feeling so much of entertainment is going dematerialized, decentralized, on a phone, on a device, on a single piece of screen, and that's gonna get just crazier and crazier. And I see this deflation everywhere. That's why I don't recognize myself in the local lingo, local speech of everybody saying, "Hey, things are costing more." I really, oftentimes, most of the time, I don't see it. I don't see things costing more. I think we're entering a deflationary world, and that is a big problem if we enter a deflationary world, because the governments have to issue a lot of debt, and that debt is not going to be taken on by a lot of people. For example, this is still a controversial idea, but with Tesla road taxis and Waymo, I'll throw Waymo in there, but for now it's mostly Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, Walmart Plus, Amazon Prime. Like, think about that. To me, if you use these modern day apps, and let's assume you don't have a driver license and you don't want to go through the hassle of getting a driver license, how is this world not much cheaper? than buying a $40,000 car and like signing a loan for 7 years and having to pay full-blown cost of insurance because you don't own it free and clear, so you have to use very expensive insurance. Like, some people complain, and I think people who have $1,000 car payment, they're exaggerating. You bought too big of a car. But let's imagine you buy just a safe car. Let's imagine you have $500 a month. Take that $500 a month and instead think about, like, okay, just stop going to the grocery store. Use Walmart Plus or Amazon Fresh. It's free. Delivered food at home is free. If you need to go somewhere, you can use Lyft, you can use Uber, you can use Tesla. It's still... The sticker may still seem a little expensive. Okay, you go to the grocery store, it costs you $12. You go to the restaurant, it costs you $12. But actually, if you add it up and you actually count, I mean, unless you're like a proverbial soccer mom and you have to drive everywhere, for most people, I guarantee you, it's just cheaper to Uber and Lyft everywhere. It is just cheaper than car ownership. Now, most people don't see that because they already own a car. So they already have that expense. But if you don't have that expense, and you're 18-year-old today, and you have transportation at the tap of a button, and transportation is much less needed because you're part of that new culture where most of your entertainment is at home, most of your entertainment is on a small screen, that is actually very, very, very compelling. And I see a lot of disruption coming in the US from saying things like Uber, Tesla, Lyft. And in Europe, I know these are especially problematic in Europe. I still watch sometimes some like French news segments or videos. These little scooters here, 149, but you get 24% off. So it's like $110. They tell you it's 25 kilometers per hour max. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. The people who buy this stuff, they know exactly how to get it into the little management software here, and you just tweak it a little bit. And yeah, you're not supposed to do that, but they do it anyways. And then you end up with these machines going 100 kilometers an hour. You have these machines going 60 miles an hour. And that's very, very dangerous and very risky. And of course, governments are very, very, very upset. But as far as I'm concerned, which I'm concerned about economics, is this deflationary? You bet. It's so deflationary. A scooter, these, when I was a kid, these were everywhere. Every single child, when I was going to the equivalent of high school in France, my friends, they all had those. Do you know how much these cost these days? $7,500. Like, I can only imagine the 12-year-old or 15-year-old in Europe these days. They just probably own a couple of those. And of course, and you probably throw it out after a year and a half, and you buy a new one, You're looking at 2 orders of magnitude cheaper, 100 times cheaper. Not to mention, these accelerate like mad. Like, of course, you could never do that with a gas thing. And regulation's trying to stop it because regulation has an incentive to keep inflation going. They have an incentive to keep the appliances going because a scooter like this is an appliance, right? It's made by people in a factory. This is a Piaggio. It's made by people welding and doing all that sort of stuff. Something like this is not an appliance. This is manufactured like a phone. This is manufactured like a pressure, like a air fryer. That's the same manufacturing prowess. So this, if they make one a second, this they make one every 10 minutes. The technology is deflation. The system is trying to not go towards deflation. But I believe we can't fight against progress. We can't fight against technology. Tony Seba, a lot of people think Tony Seba's out there. I don't think Tony Seba's out there. I think he entirely got it. If you follow the latest Tony Seba YouTube, he's talking about yogurt makers and making your own yogurt and your own yeast-based milk at home, and that's of course building on the technology of beer making. There's actually, I don't know in Europe, but I know in the US it's very common that it's like the best hobby of 40-year-old. You have a bunch of 40-year-old who just make beer in the garage, and it's very easy. Well, it's all based on yeast. If you can manage yeast and heat, which you only need is electricity, you can really see a future where you make your own cheese at home and you make your own yogurt at home. And there are similar technologies with mushrooms. You could use mushrooms to do a lot of stuff. There's going to be a lot of, let me call it, energy to food businesses, energy to food appliances. And this is me. I've been very excited about these, mostly because I have a swimming pool and I'm very upset about my water bill. So this is one of them I'm very excited about is water-to-air generators. I want the Chinese or Tesla. Please, the Chinese or please Tesla, give me a mainstream inexpensive water-to-air generator. So this is a Texas company, actually. It makes 66 gallons a day. It's for a small household. I think the average American needs 40 gallons a day. So this is 66 gallons a day. But unfortunately, they sell it to you like as a subscription. But from what I understand, this right now is something like $8,000 or $9,000 right now. I see a future where every AC machine is capable of also making water. And so your AC machine is hooked up to your plumbing. And so your AC machine makes water. And so then all of a sudden, you cut off from the grid, the water grid, which is most of the time an administrative, super inflationary setup. Your classic administrative science, your classic management always grows. Everybody's a manager. And then you have your local water department. It's a whole bunch of employees who just cost a fortune compared to technology. Imagine your local water department competing with these at a mass scale. Imagine these costing the same price as, I could have talked to you about EcoFlow, for example, and how EcoFlow is disrupting Generac. All of these batteries in EcoFlow, now you can get an EcoFlow for $500. The EcoFlow powers the pool pump for like 2 days, and you can get an EcoFlow for $500. So imagine the disruption of EcoFlow, imagine the disruption of these two scooters, imagine the disruption of air fryer applied to water generation. That would be absolutely insane. Someone has to do it. Back in the early days, we talked about Tesla getting into the AC business. If Tesla could make an air conditioning unit that also generated, I don't know, like 100 gallons a day, that would disrupt so much. It would be instantly disrupting. And of course, in the US, I'm seeing more and more, and again, where regulation allows, I'm seeing more and more renos going on with these mini splits. And these mini splits, of course, are all over Asia, all over Europe. This is the standard. You may know in the US, unfortunately, it's central here. It's the least efficient thing ever. It costs a fortune, and that's because the HVAC business really hasn't been updated in decades. And they may say, oh, well, you can't repair it. Well, guess what? Yeah, appliances are not meant to be repaired. They're mass manufactured. If it breaks, you replace it with an updated version. The big advantage of having of something that can't be repaired is that you get to update it with the latest version, which may use, so many times less energy. Anyways, please, China or Tesla, work on a water-to-air generator. Not to mention the big problem with water-to-air generators. The big advantage, compared to the local utility is, the water oftentimes in local utility, that water oftentimes is no good. The pipes oftentimes in the town are no good, and you're really not supposed to drink it. This, you generate your own water. And regulations, and I'll finish with this. Regulations, in general, they're fighting to keep the inflationary system alive. But that's why in spaces where there's not a lot of regulation, like home appliances, it's disruption galore, right? Floor cleaning robots, it's disruption galore. Whenever you have a lot of regulation, unfortunately, you have to fight, and it takes longer to fight the inflationary system. An example that I have in the US is, so in some US states, for example, there's a minimum house size. The local city wants to get high taxes, so they force you to build a very, very McMansion, like a very big house, because that way they get a tax bill for like a decade, for a century. They get the tax bill for a century. In some states, you have a mandatory gas connection at home. You're mandatory, even though heat pumps make all of the sense in the world, it's mandatory to have a gas home connection. So regulations oftentimes fight to keep the system alive. But I'll leave you with this thought. And if you know anything about Elon Musk lives in one of those. Elon Musk has one of those at SpaceX, and that's the revolution that I think a lot of China is working on, and I hope Musk at some point works on it. These are container-sized homes. Container-sized homes built in a factory, mass manufactured in a factory. You can have a container-sized home, and of course they cost $20,000. The same equivalent house, if you had to get it built on a square footage basis, you'd be, maybe at 150. Maybe at 150 versus 20. So disruption can come to homes. I didn't put put this, but 3D printed homes have had a very hard time picking up because of regulation and codes just not wanting to keep up, and they want to keep the same code from 1997. You still have plenty of cities who apply like the builder's code from 97 for some reason. I don't know why. It depends on your city. You have some cities more progressive than others. But, Musk talked about this. Like Musk, when he introduced the Robovan, he talked about, you could turn it into anything. Like, for example, you could turn a Robovan, all self-driving. Let's say you have friends coming over. You could turn it into a third or fourth bedroom and would just stay in your driveway, the time for your friends to be at home, and then the fourth bedroom is gone and you can use it for something else. You could use it for an office. And of course, the power of these modular housing systems is that you can stack them up, you can put them next to each other, you can move them, right? Imagine if there's a hurricane coming and you have one of these, you can probably drive it away. And of course, think about all of the value locked in real estate. Think about all of the value that is locked in real estate. What if homes in the future are so easy to make because we use automation, which they eventually be very easy to make? They'll just, what if you move from a home being a big appliance to a home being just a big tech product? The home is now a big tech product and not a big appliance. The home is not made by a bunch of craftspeople. The home is made by a giant machine. What if you move into that world? The world is deflationary, my friends. And I know this is a tough idea to get around, and a lot of people are against this idea, but the world is deflationary. It's very possible, if they don't print it too much, it's very possible that your dollars will be worth more tomorrow than they are today. It's very possible that 350 will buy you even more automation tomorrow than it does today, despite the insane monetary printing. And imagine if you put your money in stocks, if you put your money in Bitcoin, if you put your money in things that retain their value, your money might even fly even further in the future. So hopefully this gives you some food for thought. This is some things in economics that I think about a lot. Hopefully this gives some food for thought as to where we're headed, there's going to be some trouble happening if we want prices to go up. I'm not so sure prices are going to go up in a lot of sectors. So anyways, this was not investment advice, not financial advice, only entertainment on this channel. I'm hoping you were entertained. Please like, please subscribe, follow me on Patreon, follow me on X. Thank you for watching, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.